it is 8 o'clock on the morning of July 31st, 2025, and I'd like to call the special meeting of the McMinnville Water and Light Commission. And I would like roll call from Gina.
Yes, Mayor Morris,
Here.
Commissioner Tankersley,
Here on Zoom.
Commissioner Elmer,
Here as well on Zoom.
Commissioner Garvin,
Here.
Commissioner Macy Baker.
Here.
So we're gonna have an update on our facility project, warehouse construction method, and main building design. I'm not sure who to call on first.
Yeah,
Chad.
chat. Yeah, well, first of all, thank you all very much for attending, coming this morning. Yeah, I just want to update the commission on the progress we're making on the facility project. So we've been meeting with our owner, architect, and contractor meeting. The OAC meeting is what we call it. We meet every Wednesday. We've been putting that in the memo as a department update. It's been really good. The team's gelling, coming together. Several things we've talked about is construction during what it looks like during construction for staff. We've talked about different types of materials that can be used on the project, particularly the warehouse, which we'll get to here in a little bit. So we're making really good progress there. That's been going on for a little bit more than a month, I'd say. We've had about 4 meetings. So that's been really good. The design itself is picking up some speed. We'll go over some of the renderings that we have here today. So we're kind of starting to hone in on what it could potentially look like on the exterior as well as the interior. We're getting the program pretty much solidified. What the offices will look like, the space inside will look like, which is really good. But what's going to do is going to start releasing that to the engineering professionals to start doing their work. So we've had 3 schematic design meetings. We had our schematic design 3 meeting last week, I believe it was. And the renderings you'll see today are a result of that meeting. So we're getting really close. What's going to end up happening once we get past the schematic, at the end of schematic, we're going to have a presentation for the commission. MW&L architects will be there at that meeting. We'll show more renderings that we have. It'll be probably getting more honed in. And we'll also have the first cost estimate at that point in time. Depending on schedule and a couple of key decisions we need to make, we're probably looking at September, October timeframe for that. And the idea is once that happens, we'll be going into design development, the next phase of design, and we'll do the same thing. So that design development will be going from room to room, exterior. We'll really start honing on the materials that are going to be used, the different carpeting, interiors, and stuff like that. As we progress through that, when we get towards the end of that, we'll have another presentation with MW&L. They'll come with more detailed drawings and another estimate before we go into construction drawings. We'll have another one at the end of that phase as well. So just want to keep the commission kind of updated where we're at. That's where we at. We have internal committees, groups of water and light employees. We've had interiors committee has been pretty busy. So it's been a really, really good team. They brought some samples down, and we're kind of starting to get color palettes and stuff like that. And so still some work on that to do, but we're getting the general idea of different types of materials we like in different types of places. And so that's kind of where we're at with the project right now. I don't know.
I think what we're trying to do today is get the feel of the commission, make sure we're going down the right path. We don't want to go down a path and then have to stop and change gears. So that's why we wanted to have this conversation.
Okay.
And would this be a good time to maybe bring up, since we're kind of talking about the schematic design,
Yeah.
to bring up the drawing, Trina, of what we have thus far? So that's it so far. not finalized. The biggest thing is the gable. One of the things that staff felt was important was to have a presence when you drove into the parking lot from Marsh Lane. There was a couple of different renderings that we kind of went through with MWA. One of the gables was actually facing the north, so it'd be facing towards Riverside. So it's kind of staff's thought that you're kind of driving into the side of the building when you're entering Marsh Lane instead of, you know, this. And so what we worked with MWA and said, hey, what if we rotated the gable so it faced the east? What would that look like? So they went to work for us and they came back with a rendering that looked a little bit different than this, had different color schemes and stuff on it. And we kind of massaged it. We had schematic design meeting last week, like I said. We had a few additional tweaks. Kind of putting a little bit more stonework on the side, try to make it symmetrical in the center there with the windows. There was some drawings that had more windows than that. We kind of cut it down a little bit. We like the recessed entry. Some of the renderings had entry that was flush with the front. We kind of like that gable entry kind of draws you to where the customers be walking in. So this is kind of one of the other things too on the east side. It was really long windows. It still is, but we kind of broke it up with some stonework in there to kind of break it up a little bit. And so those are some of the things. They changed the color scheme. There's a lot of red color brick on there. We still haven't landed on what we're working on that as well. But this is the rendering that, as of right now, the direction that we're going. And we just kind of want to get some comments and feedback from the commission, make sure that we are on the right track before we keep on progressing, I guess.
You want us to jump in here now?
Yeah.
Go ahead, you're gonna say something.
What do you anticipate to be on the other side of that,
South side,
where all the big windows are? Is that maybe a meeting room or what?
so you would walk in the front door. And there'll be display cabinets. And then there's a double door that would go into the meeting space. And then you would continue to walk, and then that would be customer service line. So it would actually, and I don't know if Trina has this or not, but this is kind of the layout that you would see. So here's the entrance up here.
Gotcha.
So that's
So this is
that's
like the commission room.
yes,
Okay.
this is the commission room. So the space with the large windows is the commission room.
Oh. I want to make sure it wasn't a bunch of screens that you're gonna have glare issues.
Right.
So I know this is different than, I mean, we talked about
Yeah.
it Tuesday, and I do like the changes of the windows in the front, and I like that Water and Light, the name's bigger and there's more stone than there was before. Is the overhang any bigger? And again,
It's
just
6
worried,
feet.
okay, so just worrying about
Right.
light coming through these windows, and I hate to have the blinds closed all the time.
Right. So
So-
one comment that somebody made, which I thought might be a good idea, we haven't talked to MWA about it yet, is to polarize the windows. So you don't get as much, so it filters more of the light. So that might be an option we could do as well.
Yeah.
And then we did bring the overhang out further because
You
of
did,
that.
okay.
Yeah, I think originally it was 3 feet.
I think that's fine. I like it, and I like turning it.
Yeah.
So that is what you see when you go on the driveway.
And the other thing is we actually have seen a very basic rendering of the inside of the commission room with both orientations. This one was actually much nicer. Have it, was that,
Yeah. That was a consensus with staff. Yeah.
Yeah. it seemed more grander when you walked into the room. So. I don't know if any of the other commissioners have any comments.
I just have a clarification question. Is it face that those windows face east, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So to Lisa's question, there is going to be seating in the back for staff outside, yes. And it's covered actually. You can't, if you look you see the white where the warehouse building would be, if you kind of look towards The back, there's kind of a little gable there. There's a covered area right there as you enter the building. You have to go to the towards the back there.
I know we're just kind of talking exterior design, but with the amount of room we're dedicating or square footage to that commission room, is it gonna be tech wise, like multi-purpose setup so we can do
I think they guys, I
meeting
think,
space or trainings or whatever?
Yeah, and then that's the intention. So kind of right in the middle there, at the peak of the gable, there's gonna be a partition wall or a partition there. It's very similar to this. We don't know what it's gonna look like, but something that we could have potentially 2 trains if we need to. But yes, that's all staff training right now. We have a big deficit in space. When we have all staff meetings, it's in the break room in the warehouse and it's cramped. People are standing room only. So yeah, the intention is to have the other half is all staff. Also, in an emergency event, to double as an EOC. And make both spaces very flexible so we can move things around, and that's the intention. as
Yeah,
we
I just
do
don't want to
this.
dedicate that much space for a once a month meeting.
yeah,
You know, it looks
right.
strange.
And so I think Trina, did you meet with Claudia to talk a little bit about the AV issues the city has with their space?
Yeah, we briefly talked, and I know Thad has talked with Scott, to learn what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And we're visiting other sites. We're also gonna get some demos on what works for different, for our purposes, having the flexibility, kind of having the 2 different zones if we need them, but have everything also all work together if we need that as well.
Hopefully you can get your heating better than this civic hall as well. It is freezing on one end and hot on the other.
Mhm.
And so wherever your thermostat goes.
Right.
Yeah.
think
I
about
thought
that.
was just affected the conversations had.
Me too.
So I guess, is there any other questions?
No questions. I think it looks very nice. And it's not overstated, but very classy looking.
Yeah, I think we're on the right track.
Okay, so,
I like the look of it. I think it looks good. One thing would be if you're gonna polarize those big windows, to keep a common look throughout the building.
right, yeah. Okay, so we'll, I think that was.
Yeah, and it's a good key moment for us because it enables MWA and their team to move forward now with design on the inside.
Mhm.
They've been kind of on pause a little bit until we
Sure.
kind of turn them on. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
nothing else on that one. We can move on to the warehouse.
Yep.
Start on that.
yeah, so kind of going back to our OAC meetings I had discussed. PNC Construction is our CMGC. They attend every meeting, as well as MWA, our architect. Sometimes we'll have some of our structural engineers, WRK, Brian Knight's on. And so it's been really beneficial. I really think that the CMGC model that we've selected is already showing its potential benefits. As we were walking through this, one of the scenarios that popped up was, hey, material for a warehouse. There are other options outside of just strictly steel, and it could be a potential savings for McMinnville Water and Light. What do you think? And so we did schedule a tour at Ferris. It's been about a month ago. So we had a group of us went down there and toured the facility. The material that they're proposing as an option for McMinnville Water and Light is mass plywood, which is a mass timber product. Mass timber has been around for some time. So we went down, we toured the facility. It's an option that was brought up by our structural engineer as well as PNC Construction. It is their thought that the warehouse will perform just as well as steel building would. Seismically, they'll be able to build it to the rating of immediate occupancy, the risk standard that we're looking for. So both buildings could do the same thing. And so we're looking for we are looking for a decision from the commission on which way to go, because right now they're kind of on pause. As far as doing anything, engineering wise on the warehouse until they know which material you're gonna be using. PNC Construction, they have done many mass timber, projects in the past. This is a mass timber product, as I mentioned. So the mass plywood and the CLT, there's a lot of folks on the call that know a lot more than I do. The material may be different, so it's a veneered product, the mass plywood. Plywood's been around a long time in construction. I mean, it's all over in this building. So they're a bunch of laminates glued together in different ways. So the material is a little bit different than like a CLT, which is more like of a conventional lumber type stuff that's all together. But the installation process is identical. It's the same. And so the thing that some of the things with the MPP or the mass plywood is the water intrusion, making sure that it stays dry, especially during construction. So PNC has lots of experience in that, making sure that all the material is dry during construction. Once it's up, we're gonna be sealing it probably with metal sheeting. It'll look very similar to the warehouse. You probably won't even be able to tell on the exterior what's on the interior. And so they have plans in place. They've done this many times to make sure that during install, it remains dry. And so we're looking for the commission on direction on the material to be used on the warehouse. Both of them can provide what we're looking for, but there is a cost benefit of about 300,000.
We were hoping to be there. Is that where the meeting's held? So there is a cost savings between the two.
Okay.
So I don't.
Yeah, and so there's cost savings of approximately $300,000 in the estimate from PNC. And so we're looking
In favor of the mass plywood.
correct.
From an insurance perspective, is the plywood like a higher risk from a fire side or anything like that?
I think, I don't know for sure, but it is gonna be a sprinkled building because of the size. So you will have fire sprinklers in the building, regardless of whether it's steel or mass plywood. So that is a requirement. Yeah, Tom. I know Tom.
No, I'm not gonna go into the whole thing yet, but on follow up on that question about the sprinkling. Has anyone thought about what happens if the sprinklers go off to this material?
So I can't answer that question, but maybe our architect or one of the engineers can answer that question.
Yeah, sure. I can jump in, Brian Knight here, WRK Engineers. I mean, the mass plywood is a really stable assembly in terms of just it's not much different than any other kind of wood organic structural material that we're going to have in terms of exposure to fire sprinklers. Like any other wood building, you'd have to dry that material out. I don't see that exposure to water in a short-term event is going to have structural impacts in terms of just automatic delamination of these panels. I think you run the risk, just like any kind of manufactured wood product, whether it be plywood or laminated lumber or parallel strand lumber. Long-term exposure to the elements or to water would be a concern, but that would be a concern with any structural wood member. So I'm not sure that there's any, at least from my viewpoint, significant concerns to short-term exposure to moisture, due to a fire sprinkler event. I'm not sure that would be a super big concern from a structural standpoint.
Thank you.
And to also kind of echo that, Derek here with PNC Construction, what is the type of material that breathes? So in the event that a fire sprinkler were to go off, like a short-term exposure, any any moisture that gets in it, it's gonna breathe out of it. So just like any event, we're gonna, there will be fans in there to dry it out, but there wouldn't be any, the moisture will come out of the wood and it will breathe out. That's just how it organically works. Just as if a vent went off in a building that had drywall, you're gonna, do some form of moisture mitigation if there was a short-term event that occurred.
But will this have drywall on it,
No.
on the inside?
No, I was just trying to frame an example.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
it'll just look like plywood on the inside.
Exactly.
Yeah, Steve Olhuber from MW&L. I think the bigger concern is if we have an event where a fire sprinkler is going off, because the volume of the space is relatively large, that means we have a large fire going on in the building. So I'd be more concerned with what the fire and heat damage is, which would be the same between like steel and wood in terms of concerns for that aspect, more so than what the water would be. So if a fire sprinkler goes off intermittently or accidentally, I agree with PNC and Brian. Usually you have to like saturate these panels and leave them out in exposure in wet weather to really affect the humidity and moisture content of it. So again, I'd be more concerned about what was catching on fire and what was placed in the building that it erupted like that.
So if this is the interior of the warehouse and you're gonna hang, are you hanging anything, shelves ever,
No,
anything?
those are
on it?
all shelves that are not attached to the building,
Okay,
similar to what we have today.
Well, like a no drill policy in the wall, basically.
We've talked a little bit about, we might have to have something for stability of the shelf.
Oh, angry.
Yeah, but that would be the only thing we would be looking at.
because there's no studs behind this.
Correct, so it's all plywood, so, you're gonna have a pretty thick piece of material to screw something into, actually.
Yeah, so you could do that, but then if you move something, you have a hole, it's not like sheetrock that you can
Patch, right?
patch.
Right.
So you better make sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is a multi-decade building, so
Mhm.
a couple decades down the road, we realize one of these panels is bad. Is this, you can go in and just replace that panel,
I
or?
think that might be a question for maybe Derek or Ferris. I think Ferris is on here too.
So I believe Kelsey is on the line here, but as far as like the longevity of the panels, the Ferris can speak to their warranty, but they do have the life of the structure warranty. Kelsey, did you want to talk to that?
Yeah, sure, I can speak. My name is Kelsey Boyer. I'm a sales engineer here at Ferris Engineered Wood. And yeah, as far as a panel replacement, it does depend a bit where the panel is. Similar to if a steel beam, were to have a defect that's found in it and needing a replacement, there'd be a process of temporarily reinforcing the structure in that area and then replacing the panel. And as Derek briefly mentioned there, we do have a lifetime of the structure warranty. And, one concern that I've heard in the past is, well, how do we know that Ferris is, or a company like yours is going to be around for the lifetime of the structure? I guess be reassured that Ferris has been in business for over 100 years and will continue to be around for the lifetime of the structure.
Tom?
Yes, thank you. A couple of things. First of all, I went on the tour and I was really impressed with your plant and your people there. But it's my understanding that we're not just talking about some laminated walls. We're talking about all of the structural elements, the beams, the posts, and all that are going to be this plywood product too, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay, and then the second part of it is, you mentioned your warranty, and I saw the letter this morning, and it said replace the panel, does that mean you give us a new panel and then it's our responsibility to put it in, or you do all the work and tear all the stuff out?
I think it's very dependent on what caused the issue, the sort of scope of how it would need to be replaced. But I believe that what our warranty says is that we'll be responsible for all of the costs associated with replacing the panel if it was determined to be a manufacturer's defect or something else along those lines. If it was an issue where there was a leak in a pipe that poured down a panel for many, many years and led to a structural failure, we could certainly still provide the panel, but we'd likely rely on the city of McMinnville to provide the costs for replacement for any of the labor and install.
Kind of the add on to what Kelsey's talking about. I mean, it's going to be very situational as far as what that warranty looks like. With us as a CMGC, we also have our warranty, which is typically, that first year. So if there is something that was obviously a defect, we would also be helping out with that. But as far as like something that's long down the road, like a situation which Kelsey's talking about, where you have some water intrusion that's affecting the structure based off of a different system, you can look at that type of situation if you had a steel structure in which there is a internal leak that was running and starts rusting out the structure, and you're going to be in a similar situation. And if you're in a situation like that, that's outside of the warranty period, you could always, even though it's outside of the warranty period, you can always reach out to PNC, and we could at least help advise on what next steps would look like to kind of help out and see what options there are for you. And so it's going to be case dependent. If like someone drives is full speed ahead with a truck and just blows out a wall, that's obviously something that's going to be outside of warranty, but that's something we can say, all right, well, we can try to help advise and see what repairs look like.
No, I understand that it has to be a problem, whether it's delamination that shows up 15 years from now or something like that. But the memo I saw said, and I'll try to read it here, if a defect arises, FRERA's sole responsibility is to repair or replace the individual panel.
Yeah. So did you also get a copy of our terms and conditions along with that memo, Tom?
And no, I don't think you didn't send it out. Did you?
I don't think we saw that.
No.
This with that email.
Was it? I don't remember seeing it.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to forward the full terms and conditions if they haven't already been. But I believe that our full terms and conditions say that if there's a defect in the panel, we'll cover the costs associated with the replacement, not like the costs associated with the replacement of the panel, not just supplying the panel.
Okay.
But I can clarify that and follow up.
Thank you.
So let me ask a question. So you have this wall, and that's what you're going to see on the inside. And then there's no studs, but is there that another panel? And then there is what about insulation and the plumbing and all of that?
So it'll just be very thick plywood. You can have cavities in the wall, but we're thinking that we'll just mount those things on the outside of the wall.
Okay.
And so there's an example right there. It will be something similar to that. That's the CLT product, but the plywood product would just be many layers of plywood, laminates together.
So no insulation.
It actually has, I think they said it has an R5 rating just because of the wood.
So you don't need any additional insulation.
And that was something, the warehouse that we went down and looked at was actually, there was no insulation in the wall.
If it would be helpful, I'd be happy to share a couple of images of our plywood
Sure.
warehouse and how the conduit and routing is set up.
We're not planning to keep
Um,
the building, that part of the building.
Oh, yeah, they're not worried about anything out there freezing.
It's saying that the hosted disabled attendee screen sharing. Do you know if you can enable that?
I'm like,
Go ahead. Brian.
Okay. There we go. So this is our plywood warehouse. You can see all the sprinkler systems are just face mounted to all of the panels along, as well as the electrical conduit. And this is effectively what we would anticipate the structure to look like on the inside, just without the sort of column line down the center of the structure. And so our mass plywood panels have an R value of 1.5 per inch, and at least on our warehouse here at the plant that we use for our plywood inventory, we used 4 ply panels on the wall and 2 ply panels on the roof. And so this structure, like Derek mentioned, is not insulated beyond what the wood provides. And I've been in the structure in the middle of winter, as well as the 100-degree day we had here a couple weeks ago, and it's surprisingly self-regulating. I think the hottest I've ever felt inside the structure is in the low 80s, and the coolest I've seen inside the structure has been in the low 60s. And so the wood itself acts as a really strong sort of insulating material that allows really the interior to stay relatively conditioned even without any heating or cooling.
does it come sealed, or do you have to reseal it? Do you have to do anything to that wood over time?
The inside doesn't have any sealant on it, no. Douglas fir is naturally pretty rot resistant as far as a wood species goes. There's certainly options to have it finished, apply a stain, but in this structure, our own warehouse, we didn't apply any stain or sort of protectant coating to it.
And how long has your warehouse been built?
We finished it last summer. So this is relatively new still.
Okay, so Adam?
Is it required to maintain your guys' warranty to clear coat that every 5 years or anything like that on the interior?
Nope. No, yeah, absolutely not. The only one that I would be, the only part of the structure that we would strongly advise some form of coating system would be the 2 columns that are in the open air part of the structure. And I say coating, but that also could be in the form of some form of cladding, whether that's sheet metal. You can see sort of on the far right-hand side of this picture, we've got our exterior columns clad in a metal sheeting.
Tom, do you have a question? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
No, sorry. It would just be to protect against any, extended wind-driven rain that would sit on the surface. But as Derek mentioned earlier, as much as wood soaks up moisture, it also releases that moisture. And as long as it's allowed to breathe appropriately through, appropriate venting details, we don't really have any concerns about wind-driven rain. We would just be concerned if there was pooling water somewhere that was sitting on the post for an extended period of time, or sitting on any of the wood part of the structure for any extended period of time.
Okay. Tom?
So a couple things. This is really questions for staff. First of all, can we get away with having a 63-degree warehouse or whatever they've experienced now? And then the second one is, I thought I heard him say 1.5 R value per inch of material, and they're talking about two per inch of material, and they're talking about using 2 on the roof. Is that kind of R value, R4 on the roof, or an R6 on the walls? Is that the kind of value we would have or recommend to somebody to have?
About the first part.
Yeah, I'll talk about the first part. As far as, you know, the temperature is 60 degrees, it's been colder in our warehouse. Colder than 60 before, as long as it's above freezing, for the pipes. But yeah, there's nothing out there that needs to be stored at a certain temperature that we're gonna be getting. So, I think it would be completely sufficient.
And I think the other part of your question, Tom, is we're not looking at heating it, so I don't know if we really would have any recommendation for somebody if they weren't heating a building.
How many people?
Okay.
So in the building, there's actually gonna be a couple offices, those will be heated.
Okay,
Yeah, so there's, going back maybe to Tom's question, there is a couple of offices out there that are going to be heated and they'll be separate, they'll be sheetrocked and all of that.
Okay.
But the main part of the building, is not gonna be heated.
Thank you.
Part of our problem in our warehouse now is with the trucks stored in the warehouse, the doors tend to get left open all day. And so it just didn't seem like it made sense to try and heat a space that doors are gonna be open. It just,
The doors will be closed on the expanded
Yeah,
warehouse
but
practically all the time.
most of the time, because the crews, the long-term plan is that once we build the expansion, all the material storage goes into the new portion. And the old portion of the warehouse is just trucks only.
Okay.
And so we'll actually end up having quite a bit more space for storing our trucks. Right now, we have some of our trucks out in the pole shed and they don't look very good after a while. They get pretty dirty, and so this will actually be pretty nice for the crews to actually have all the vehicles in the building.
any other commissioners have questions? Tom, did we answer Tom's second question
I think so,
about the R value?
yes.
Yes, thank
Okay, Adam,
I don't remember if it was a conversation or in an email memo, but you'd mentioned possibly sourcing wood from our watershed. and
Yes.
Where does that look like financial wise?
So I mean, maybe, I don't, Ferris wanna talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I can speak to that. I talked to our president, Rob Ferris, who mentioned that in the past we actually have, at some point in our history, sourced wood from the McMinnville Water and Light forests, and that for this project we would be happy to work out some sort of financial agreement to buy wood from you for the structure. As far as ensuring that all of the wood purchased from you made it into the structure, I'm not sure that we could guarantee the full chain of custody there, but we certainly could purchase as much wood from you for the project as you have available for us, and either put all of that money towards the contract, or just have them as separate contracts. But we know the quality and sort of the level of sustainable and sort of good forestry practices that you practice with your forests, and it's the same that we practice in our forests, and so we know that the quality is there to be able to source from you.
Would you be able to ensure that some of our wood ended up in our building, or?
I think we could probably ensure that at least some made it through. Yeah, I'd have to talk to the operations team over at the veneer plant to make sure that we could make that happen. So let me talk to them, and I can follow up with the group here.
Okay, thank you.
Tom?
2 questions. First, is that going to save us any money using our wood?
I mean,
Or what cost? It sounds to me like it might cost more actually, because you have to handle it differently, and we've got to deal with the harvest.
Yeah.
So you don't know.
we wouldn't handle it differently. It would still be just, I mean, we have 60 wood trucks a day roughly coming and delivering logs to our veneer mill. And we would, I'm sure that we could treat this material as sort of a special case, but we wouldn't charge more for that. We would just treat it as a standard log purchase agreement where we would buy logs from you at the market rate for what those logs are, and then either build that into the contract as a direct discount, or just have it as separate contracts and pay you for the logs, and then have you pay us for the full value of the structure.
Thank you. And I'd like, if you don't mind, I'd like to circle back to the warranty again. I'm looking at the second one of the memorandum about performance, delamination, and environmental durability. And the third bullet point says the glue bond durability panels are tested using a 6-cycle test, which simulates 10 years of exposure. Treated specimens must retain at least 65% of untreated strength values. So after it simulates, so to have your product meet these standards, after you've simulated 10 years of use, it's going to have 65%. It has to have at least 65% of the durability of the structural strength of it originally had. Is that correct?
I believe that's a fair statement. The testing procedures are all per the ANSI/APA standards for CLT products. That's PRG 320. And so yeah.
So then, thanks. So then I would ask our engineers whether 65% of the structural of the posts and beams is sufficient.
Well, we're having a hard time hearing you.
I'm sorry. I would ask our engineers whether 65% of the structural strength of the posts and beams, for instance, is sufficient.
I'm not sure where the 65% comes from and what doctors.
But it comes from what their standards are. We just talked about it, and as I understood it, that was the durability of the glue standard, and that's what I got from their memo.
So are you saying that the product is only going to be worth 65% of the structural design values after it leaves the plant?
No.
Kelsey,
This is the third bullet point. This is the third bullet point in number 2 that says glue bond durability panels are tested, and they say there's a way they test which simulates 10 years of exposure. Treated specimens must retain at least 65% of untreated strength values. So I think Kelsey said, yes, what this means is that to pass the tests, they after what looks like 10 years, they have to use, they only have to be 65% of the structural strength originally.
Yeah, Tom, keep in mind that that's 10 years of exposure to the elements. So it's not going to be exposed to the elements. So that's an extreme exposure.
Oh, no. Okay, wait. Now, I don't think that yours could pass that, though, because when we drove up to the parking lot, there were these panels that were in the parking lot that had been in and out, I think you said 3 years or something like that, ready to go over and be burned. And they were just, they were worthless.
Left out exposed for any length of time to be degradation, to have any sort of degradation. These are going to be protected. They're going to be inside of a building. They're not going to have any exposure to the elements over the life of their service life, and they would have a temporary condition during during construction, because the shift
But also the very next
I
sentence
don't know that
says,
the 60% is relevant to a design condition that happens.
the very next sentence says, this testing replicates environmental cycles seen over the life of a structure and confirms the suitability for long-term use in properly protected assemblies. So I don't think, I don't, you know, I didn't write this, but when I read that, I don't see how it would mean that it's tested as if it had been out in the rain for 10 years. What I read it to say is that it replicates the cycles seen over the life of the structure. And it has to do with properly protected assemblies.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to need Kelsey to speak for that. I just can't believe that you would lose 35% of the structural values of a wood product that is properly weatherproofed and interior conditions. I guess, Kelsey, you're going to have to speak to that.
Kelsey, you are muted.
Kelsey, we can't hear you.
I apologize. Sorry about that. This sentence was pulled from our technical director that shared with me yesterday. I may need to clarify with him the exact verbiage that he used and what it refers to, because I do agree with Brian that this specimen retaining 65% of its untreated strength value, I believe that doesn't refer to the structural capacity of the wood fiber itself. It refers to the glue bond.
Okay, but if the glue bond fails, then the whole thing fails, right?
I mean, it depends. If a single glue bond fails, no.
No,
because of the nature of mass plywood, there's many layers that if one single glue bond failed, no, at the structure and the piece would still be structurally sound.
Just for clarification, Kelsey. Oh. Hello.
Hard time hearing each person speak because there is a lot going on in the background for those that aren't speaking. So if you could mute and then just unmute when you're speaking, that would be great.
Sorry. Just for clarifications, this reference sentence here that we're talking about is of minimum 65%. My understanding is that this is a standard that has been set, an industry standard that has been set for testing, in which you are referencing that your product complies and that the standard is just noting that a minimum amount and doesn't necessarily mean that your product over 10 years is only going to retain its structural integrity by 65%. I think the intent here is to show that you're meeting the industry standards that's put forth by, mass timber and ASTM and, ANSI, APA. That's my understanding, Kelsey. If I'm off on that, let me know. But I think overall, as far as the structural integrity of the building, it's going to be no different than a steel building. I know there's concern of if that is degraded over the course of a lifetime of the building. But I think one thing that's important to keep in mind is when we look at the structure holistically, and one key part of that, which would we be doing if this was a mass timber building versus a steel building, is making sure that we have a watertight envelope system that is properly detailed. And I think that's the advantage of having our CMGC team here, which is that we are engaging, the structural engineer, we have MWA architects, and we're having these early on conversations and incorporating the manufacturer to make sure that whatever decision is moved forward with, that regardless of the structure, that the building will perform and we will create the design. And, I know that WRK, regardless if it was steel or MPP, will make sure that it whatever is being built will meet the those design standards to make sure that this is a building that will have long life.
Yeah, so I dug into the email that he sent and also PRG 320, and it's a quality threshold to pass the cyclic deformation testing to meet the quality standards. So when the lamella stock is tested for glue bond durability, in order to pass the QMS requirements, the treated specimens must meet 65% of the untreated values. And the treatment is a 6-cycle vacuum pressure oven dry treatment, which is intended to simulate 10 years of weathering. But like Derek mentioned, it is an industry standard for all mass timber CLT products. And that 65% is the sort of passing value for these 6 cycles of a vacuum pressure oven drying treatment. While it is intended to simulate 10 years of what it refers to as weathering, I would need to clarify with him what that actually refers to in terms of use, whether that's 10 years out exposed to the elements with constant pressure and constant loading, or whether that's 10 years of just use in a non-exposed structure, which I would have a hard time believing that under just standard loads, we would only retain 65% of the strength values after 10 years. That just doesn't align with anything that I know about wood products.
Okay, and real quick follow-up question. I think this product hasn't been in major use for 10 years, has it?
It has, yeah.
It has?
I mean, plywood itself has been around since the 70s.
No, I understand that, and I prefer plywood to OSB, just everything on the table. But using this for structural purposes other than like plywood for sheathing or making the posts and beams out of it and such, that really hasn't been going on for 10 years on a very wide basis, right?
Well, at the end of the day, mass plywood is just a bigger LVL, and LVL has also been commercialized since the 70s. So in mass plywood in structural use has been around since the 70s, and it's been used in worldwide light frame construction. So
but this is different than LVL, right? I mean, it's similar. And you think
the beams and columns are LVL.
They're not just your. I thought I saw you had a process where you made the beams and columns out of laminating more and more pieces of your plywood together, right?
Which is the same manufacturing process for LVL.
It's just putting plywood together. LVL is.
Yeah, it's the same as a Boise Cascade LVL. Boise Cascade also makes a 4-foot wide. So all LVL products, when they're manufactured, are manufactured in a 4-foot wide by, I believe it's 60-foot long format. And then to create the different sizes of LVL that are commercially available, they cut that 4-foot wide, 60-foot long piece into slices. with the popularization of CLT in commercial construction, people realized that you could start using those billets that LVL is cut from in the same way that you use dimensional lumber CLT panels. And that led to the Ferris brothers, Kyle and Tyler, building this manufacturing plant to sort of increase the size of the panels and meet the industry standard for those dimensions of like public available CLT panels. But it's not a new product per se. This is a product that's just an extension of LVL that has been around since the 70s.
Thank you.
Additionally, the sort of grandfather of these CLT LVL panels is a European company called Stora Enso. And I believe that they have been manufacturing structures since the early 2000s. And so those structures have been around for more than 10 years.
Tom, did you have any other questions?
No, not at this point. Thank you.
Okay.
I have some other things I want to talk about this, but I don't want to interrupt the flow of it. I only brought this up now because it was discussed.
Is he good to ask?
Yeah,
I think you're good to ask your questions now.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm here and happy to answer your questions, Tom.
Great, thank you. So just a second here. Dig up my notes.
Oh, it's scary when you have notes for questions.
Yes, good point. I'm sorry. Trying to use different devices here and it's
CLT
not cooperating. Here we go.
Portland Airport.
Okay,
I don't want to use this part.
we tend to use our buildings a lot longer than I think some other people do. And we've already used the one half of the warehouse, for 35, 40 years. And we're now looking to use it for at least that much longer again. Is there any track record for these materials for something that lasts that long?
So to restate your question, just to make sure I'm understanding, are you asking about the extended time use of an LVL or mass timber product that exceeds 40 years?
Well, I mean, you've said that the LVL is like this, but I think isn't mass timber just big timbers?
It is. Yeah. Mass timber just refers to large format.
So
members.
that's not what we're using here, right? Mass timber.
This is mass. So mass plywood, CLT, glulam's are all classified as mass timber.
And just so we are all on the same page here, glue laminated members, glue laminated beams have been around since the 60s, and those are classified as mass timber. And those buildings have, well documented longevity, well more than 40 years. This is just another application of that product.
But glulam's they have a lot less glue and a lot more wood, right? I mean, as I understand plywood, these are what, 8-ply, 9-ply? What
There's 9 veneer layers in each 1-inch lamination and 1-inch ply of our mass ply material.
And glulam beams are, so that's like a nice,
I mean,
where a glulam beam is a lot thicker than that for the wood thickness, right? You're
Yeah, but
relying
it's
more on the wood than on the glue, right?
no, the wood is the weakest component in the assembly. The glue is always going to be stronger than the wood. I mean, and that's true in glue laminated members. That's true in CLT laminated members. That's true in laminated veneer members. The wood is always going to be the weaker component of the assembly.
And to speak to that a bit more, typically when we compare the structural rated values of our mass plywood CLT versus a traditional dimensional lumber CLT, the mass ply competes ply for ply. So, you know, a 5-ply CLT made from dimensional lumber and a 5-ply mass ply CLT panel have effectively the same structural values, but mass ply is made of 1-inch plies, where traditional CLT from dimensional lumber is made with 1.5-inch plies, and so it ends up a lot thicker to reach the same structural values. And then one more point I just wanted to make is that the difference in wood content between like a CLT and a plywood panel, a dimensional lumber CLT and a plywood CLT, is approximately 1 to 2% different when you look at the actual volume of wood versus the volume of glue.
Commissioner Elmer has a question. What's the oldest structure built by Ferris at this time? And where is it located at? And is it larger than what we're going to build?
It's a good question. I'm not sure that I have that information available at my fingertips. I can follow up with the team and pass along the information, but I'm not sure what our first structure was. We started manufacturing these panels in our sort of test facility prior to constructing the full facility back in 2015. And I believe that we made several homes around the area out of this material. I'm not sure what the largest building was, or what the oldest building that is of this scale was. Yeah.
Maybe if you could find that out and get back to us, and then also clarify that 65% as well on your.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions, commissioners? Tom, did you have another one, or was that your notes?
I had one more that is sort of on point here, I think. Actually, it doesn't do with the warranty or the longevity, but has to do with the cost. I recall hearing part of a conversation outside the River House on our tour between a person from Ferris who, and I think at least one of our staff people were there, who said that it normally took a several-story project for this to make sense financially. Except in Alaska, where the rule, the time, the transportation, short season made it pencil for a single-story building. Do you have any idea why this would be cheaper to build with your materials than steel?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple aspects. I believe that when the gentleman that made that comment was speaking, he was speaking primarily to multi-story residential and not warehouses. What we do find is that with multi-story residential, when we're looking at just a 2 or 3-story structure, the savings in labor don't pencil out compared to the costs of materials. But with warehouses, at least from studies that we've done with developers in Portland, where we've compared the cost as a total cost package between prefabricated and sort of just-in-time delivery mass ply structure versus both steel and concrete tilt-up, what we found is that the labor is significantly higher in steel and concrete structures, and the sort of time that it takes to build that structure is longer. And as all of us are well aware, time is money, and that the cost of the labor exceeded the increased cost of the raw material in those cases.
Thank you.
Tom, this is Derek with PNC Construction, and the senior estimator. I'm the one that also helped put together or did put together that cost analysis that I shared with McMinnville Water and Light. And just in general, when you have a structural steel fab and erect structure, it is a very laborious to get people on site to erect it. You got the members, people are bolting, on site welding. That's a lot of labor hours, especially when it's a public project and there's prevailing wage, which increases. And also when there's on-site welding, that is a different classification of erector, which therefore costs even more. And it does increase the schedule, because now you're just kind of taking parts and pieces and putting it all together, versus a mass timber product, especially one where a lot of it being put together per se is happening in the manufacturing plant. And what we're doing is we're craning and we're rigging it, and it goes up very quickly. My understanding is one of the kind of key differences between this MPP form of mass timber versus like a CLT is just because of the way that's composed. It tends to be, just as strong, but not as thick. So we can, and the spans at which it can be manufactured at, it can come out in larger pieces, therefore, and decreasing the amount of labor that would be involved versus some other mass timber forms. But overall, from just like a pure labor standpoint, you're going to be using less labor when you're craning and rigging something in place versus getting structural steel members and bolting them in place. So just speaking even from a one-story structure, there's going to be just sheer labor cost savings, especially when you factor in any public funds that are in use, that it will be a prevailing wage.
Thank you.
Derek, can you speak to the length of time that you'd say would be typical to erect a structure, a steel structure of the size that we're talking about here with the Water and Light building, just as far as an overall timeline of, concrete slab to all of the structural members up?
Yeah, something that kind of relates to the size. Off the top of my head, I can see that being a couple of months, if not more, just because oftentimes there might be some issues that obviously arise out in the field, and also procurement. There's several projects where the steel is coming out of town, and they come out of town, but pieces come out, they're not right. Some of them are, coded correctly, some aren't. So all that being said, it could, from, start a foundation, a structure this size, it could be somewhere to like 2 to 3 months erection time, just off the top of my head.
Okay. The reason I asked was when we built our plywood warehouse, which is a 60,000 square foot warehouse, it took 5 weeks to fully assemble walls, all the trusses, all the rafters, purlins, and structural members, as well as the roof. And so, yeah, I think when you look at the the cost of labor, it really does pencil out in this kind of size application.
Okay. Chad, so move on.
Just one clarifying, the warehouse is mass timber and the new front building? or
We haven't
just the
gotten that
warehouse?
far yet.
Okay,
Yeah,
We're just talking warehouse right now.
we're just talking the warehouse right now.
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Guess we'll move forward. Do we have, what's the next step?
Yeah, so, like I said, engineering, we're on pause, we're on hold right now. We can't really move forward, at least for the warehouse, design until we have a direction on what material we're gonna use for that project, so.
So we have a couple questions out there that Tom had that we need answers for. So I'm thinking we need to get those back. And then can we respond to the question either online, or, via email or?
Or do you want to give us direction now with pending those answers? Would be
Okay.
another way to do that,
Okay, we can do that too.
so. Answers to those questions.
Personally like the product. But I understand.
Candidly, I wasn't really a believer when I first heard about it, but I'm on board with it now. I would like to see, pending that it's not like a big cost issue, I would like to see some wood sourced from our watershed, just from a public optics standpoint, and that politically, I think would be good for us as we move through a new BPA contract, and you're gonna have higher rates.
Rates.
I think we could get a win with citizens of saying we source our own wood.
Okay.
But I want to make physical sense. I don't want to just do that to do that.
Right.
It's got to
Cost wise.
yeah.
Right.
Tom's got his hand up.
Tom?
Yeah, first I want to say that I'm very impressed with Ferreris and the people there in the factory, and but I am concerned about us, and I don't think there's a track record for this specific type of material on a project that will last as long as we intend to use our warehouse. The problem, I think, in my mind, and I'm certainly not an expert, but in my mind, the problem is the glue. And if Ferreris gets a bad batch of glue, or the machine that they have that cures the glue doesn't work right, it may be fine for a while, but then, and it may pass these tests, because and we'll have to have this test clarified, but as I understand it, the test was 65% structural standards, but I think I didn't hear anybody say that was okay, if that's what it went down to. So we've got that problem. The second thing is that our contractor, although he's very competent, does not have experience completing a building with this particular material. And I've heard, and I believe them, that this is similar to some other laminated projects, or even solid wood beams, but I don't think they have the experience that they could do with other things, of saying this material looks like it has a problem, because they haven't really seen it, or they haven't installed it before. And I think if we had thought we're going to build this kind of building in the beginning, I think that the CMGC selection process would have been heavily weighted towards somebody who's built one of these before. And I think it, as I understand the way it was explained to the commission, there was a good process that came up with somebody that was going to know what they were doing, had experience but that was, we're all thinking about a steel building. Third, there are problems that could arise, quite possibly after any warranty period is over, and that that would have to do with the glue failing, and through, again, not necessarily that Ferris did it wrong, but the bad batch of glue. And then so basically, as we talked about it, I think we keep our buildings for a very long time. And I think that given the length of time we're going to use this building, the anticipated savings doesn't really justify the risk. And the cost, even if Ferris comes back and says, well, what this means is we'll go in and we'll install everything, we'll repair everything, as opposed to the other method, which is just, well, we'll replace the product and then you do it. But even if it means that, I think that we would have, in terms of our lost productivity, some problems we might have with our equipment or the things we're storing there, that the savings don't justify it over this number of years. So I wish that this were a product that had a long and successful history, because like I said, I like the people at Ferris. I like what they seem to be doing, but I just don't think, as a commissioner, I can say we should be the people that are the first ones that our contractor builds with this particular material, and that there aren't very many, and that we're one of the first buildings with this particular, our size buildings with one of this particular materials, and not only just in Oregon, but nationwide. The money we're talking about, which isn't for sure yet, doesn't seem to justify us taking these risks, to me.
I want, Kelsey, you were shaking your head no, so I want you to be opportunity to clarify.
Yeah, just to clarify the statement about this being one of the first structures of this size to be installed with this material. The Portland International Airport is constructed, its entire roof is constructed of mass plywood. There's an 18-story 18-story skyrise in Oakland that is made with our material. There's many structures that are significantly larger than the structure we're talking about here that have been built with mass plywood. And while I agree the material hasn't existed for 100 years like steel has, there are many large structures throughout the world made with mass ply materials that are significantly larger than what we're talking about here.
Thank you.
And also to kind of jump in there, I think, Tom, you have great points of reservations, and I think it's really wise to kind of dig deep into these items. And as far as mass plywood, SSC and GC, it is a mass timber product, which we have lots of experience in erecting mass timber structures, especially for public facilities. One of the examples I think that Trina had on the screen earlier was of the Oregon City Police Department. I understand that the composition of the mass plywood is different versus dimensional lumber, but it is very similar in what it does and how it is erected. It's like almost analogous of going from early on framing a house from 2x4 and then deciding to frame it with a 2x6. We have experience with mass timber and lots of qualifications, and I'd be happy to produce more qualifications and more projects if that would help put your mind at ease. But I think it's very prudent to kind of poke and prod at the qualifications. But I assure you, as far as erecting this product as a mass timber product, we are qualified to do.
Real quickly, I didn't mean, if implied, I didn't mean to imply you wouldn't know how to do it. What my thought here is that this is different in that there are different potential problems. There's a lot more glue. There's a lot more. There are things like that could fail, and that's what I'm concerned about. It that we don't have. And the airport being the airport's beautiful, but we don't know how it's going to last over the lifetime. And this is a different material. I remember, this is not the same kind of material, but I remember, I don't know, what was it, 40 years ago, LP came out with this siding, and there was a lot of other different kind of sidings like T111 and such. And, it was said to be similar. And then it turned out there was a problem with it that I think LP didn't know about until it had been out for a while and there were problems. So I just don't want McMinnville Water and Light to fall into that trap.
Okay. Commissioner Elmer, do you have an opinion? Commissioner Lisa Macy Baker, do you?
I mean, I hear Tom's concerns, but I also trust what they've done and trust the product considering the research.
So you would be okay moving forward with that?
Yes, sorry, yes.
That's okay.
But I think we need to get Tom's questions answered for sure.
Certainly. Okay. Commissioner Elmer?
Yeah, I figured out how to get off of mute. I agree with Lisa as well. I support it, but I do want the answers that Tom has asked for, and I would like to know, what is the structure around here that's been built? How long has it been built for? And what is the condition of it? I mean, is there any issues that's known right now? I've heard about this product for quite a while. I toured their facility maybe a year ago, and like everybody, it's very impressive, and I like the product. I like the value. I like that it's made out of wood, and we're from Oregon, and as a commissioner, we strongly support that timber market. So I would be inclined to use that product. I'm with Tom that there is that reservation of what if, because we don't know what 40 years of life looks like for that glue. And I know that I do demo on plywood that's, I don't know how old it is, and I can't get it to tear apart at all. So I have some belief or faith in that glue lam type or that ply product. So I'm in support, but I would like to have those questions answered.
Okay.
All right.
So it sounds like the commission is, the percentage is voting to go forward, but wanting to have answers
To those
before we say
questions.
100%.
Is that, do you think we would have answers by our commission meeting in 2 weeks?
We're hoping to have them sooner than that because we're just sitting here waiting right now. So without the answers, we can't move forward on the warehouse. So hoping to have the answers back at least by the end of the week or first part of next week.
Just keep in mind, it might be if there's a building, somebody may want to see that
Right.
building.
Right.
So that may.
Yep.
Can we also get confirmation on the possible percentage of our locally sourced wood from our watershed? I just want to make sure that's one of the questions that'll be answered.
Okay. Yep. Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks.
Yep.
Can I just clarify the questions that I'm following up on, which is the clarification of the 65%, the oldest large structure that is made from the Ferris mass ply material, the wood chain of custody question that Lisa just reiterated, and a nearby structure that could be used as a use case that's been around for a little bit that we could potentially go and visit. Were there any more that I missed?
Just on the wood chain of custody, just to verify that there is an additional cost involved.
Yeah, what I meant by wood chain of custody was just the ability for us to be able to ensure that there's, what percentage we could guarantee made it from the wood that we sourced from the city of McMinnville, that made it into the mass ply that was used for your structure. Yep, I will give that answer.
Yes, Justin?
Kelsey, can I add to that? Oh, thank you. Sorry, already.
Sure.
I'm Justin Harris with Ferreras Mass Timber. Thank you so much for this time, you guys, and this great conversation. For as far as the chain of custody, we actually purchased some timber from the OSU timberlands, and a lot of that is used in their higher education buildings, which one of them right now we're in the process of completing. It's a beautiful building, CIC building. So we were able to provide a percentage, Lisa. So I'll dig into that more with Kelsey, so we can get that for you. And Kelsey, I think part of talking about a lot of good questions. I think what we should do is also maybe illustrate from the point of the grading of the logs through the veneer grading, through the APA standards that we have to meet with our base product, and then show that how that ties to the PRG 320. All those standards have been around for years and years. So each step has to, from the veneer itself through the entire end of the product, has to be certified and classified. So we can definitely illustrate how that looks and demonstrate the stability and the longevity of the material. So I think that'll be helpful.
Sounds like it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Was that all we needed to do? Was there anything additional?
I just had a couple items.
Okay.
One, we have a tour we're working on for August 19th for the steel mill and legislators, if there's any commissioners that are interested in going on that. Also, OMU annual meeting is October 16th and 17th. If any commissioner is interested in going to that meeting, that is actually at Timberline. And then also the MWPPA annual meeting next year is will be coming up. So if there's any interest in that, usually is in May of 26, and I believe it's in Spokane. So,
John, I'm interested in going to the steel mill.
okay.
Sorry.
I will get you there. Okay.
But Commissioner Elmer has another question.
Oh, yes. Danny?
Just going back to Tom's concern of longevity, I was just wondering, like, just theoretically, let's say we had a building right now that was 40 years old and we had built it out of this product and it was delaminating. What would our insurance do at this point? I mean, I know insurance, who knows what it'll be like in 40 years, but currently, if it was similar, what would happen to us?
We'd have to talk to our agent about that. And see if there's
I'd just be curious if there's insurance that would come. Like,
okay,
how does that fall under our insurance?
Sure.
If there was
typically we wouldn't have insurance to cover something like that unless it's a a sudden event, something that that would not be something that we would a fire event. It was just failure of the design element. I don't see that as something that would be covered by our property insurance.
But the product is warranted.
That would be a warranty issue
for the lifetime of the building.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
That was all I had.
So anything else before I close the meeting?
Yeah, can we recap on the next steps? Is the commission giving the direction to move forward with the mass plywood once we get the questions answered and provided to the commission? Or are they withholding decision and wanting these answers? And are we calling an additional special meeting before we move this project forward?
I think, let me just see if the commission agrees with this. I think we're telling them to move forward with the process, but not 100% guaranteeing that we will use that product until we get the answers back and feel comfortable with those.
So then that means we can't move forward at all. So we can't really move forward in the project at all until we get an answer one way or the other.
Okay, well, I think that based on the questions that the commissioners have, that's what we need to do. Am I correct, Adam?
Yeah, I understand that the timing, but with the scope of the project and the dollars, I'm fine to be paused for a week or two.
Okay.
To make sure that the commission's in alignment with path forward.
I
I don't want any commissioner to feel like they're rushed to a decision today with an unanswered question.
Okay, so we will have to reconvene the commission to get a final answer before we move forward.
Okay, I just want to ask each commissioner before we, Commissioner Macy Baker, is that correct? Are you in agreement? Commissioner Elmer, are you in agreement?
Yes, I am.
And Commissioner Tankersley?
Yes, Mayor.
All right, so we are at a pause until we get our final answers and then we will reconvene.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I
Yes.
have one more question up here. What works an independent wood product council does have a mass timber insurance resource available. Okay,
Yeah, and I can send that along with the answers to my questions or answers to your questions. And it at least right now, I don't see any reason why we couldn't have that to you by the end of business tomorrow.
fabulous. Thank you so much for your time. Okay,
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
I'll now adjourn the special meeting at 9:31 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.